Have you ever wondered why some soldiers carried grenades not to throw at the enemy, but to use on themselves? Throughout history, snipers have been treated differently than other soldiers when captured. They were often executed on the spot. But there's one group that faced something far worse. Treatment so brutal, so systematic. Today we're uncovering the horrifying truth about what happened to female snipers when they were captured in combat, particularly during World War II. And I need to warn you, what you're about to hear is deeply disturbing. We're going to reveal why these women carried last friend grenades, the specific horrors they faced that made execution seem merciful, and how their treatment backfired on the Germans in the most unexpected way. This isn't just another war story. This is about extraordinary courage meeting unthinkable cruelty. So let's dive in. Before we get to the female snipers, you need to understand something critical. Snipers have always been the most hated soldiers on any battlefield. And it's not just about the killing. The very nature of sniping creates psychological terror that goes beyond casualties. Imagine this. You're in a trench thinking you're safe. You're drinking water, maybe reading a letter from home. Then suddenly, the soldier next to you drops dead from a bullet that came from nowhere. You can't see the shooter. You can't see where it came from. You can't fight back. You're just waiting, wondering if you're next. That's the psychological warfare of sniping. It makes every moment feel dangerous. During World War I, German snipers took this to disturbing levels. They would hide inside fake dead horses, constructed from wood and canvas in no man's land. Engineers would study real dead horses, then build exact replicas with small loopholes for rifle barrels. They built artificial tree stumps that perfectly matched real ones, then swapped them under darkness. From these positions, a sniper could observe and kill for days without detection. But here's where it gets worse. Snipers would deliberately wound soldiers instead of killing them, then wait for comrades to attempt rescue. The wounded man's screams would draw others into the crosshairs. It was coldly calculated. A wounded soldier requires several others to carry him and uses more resources. One bullet could remove 4 or 5 soldiers from combat. By World War I, captured snipers were often executed on the spot. They were seen as assassins, not soldiers. Someone who killed without giving their enemy a fighting chance. But this hatred was nothing compared to what happened when the Soviet Union deployed women as snipers. June 1941. Germany invades the Soviet Union with over 3 million soldiers, and the Red Army is getting destroyed. Entire divisions wiped out within days. Millions killed or captured in just months. Stalin was desperate. So desperate he started accepting women into combat roles, not because of progressive ideology, but pure survival. The Soviet Union was losing so many men they needed every able-bodied person who could hold a rifle. And here's what nobody expected. Women were devastatingly effective as snipers. Around 2,000 women were trained throughout the war. They attended the same brutal training as men, learning advanced camouflage techniques, fieldcraft, and ballistics. The best were sent to specialized sniper schools where they mastered their deadly craft. Some became absolutely lethal. The most famous? Lyudmila Pavlichenko. Before the war, she was a university student studying history in Kiev. She loved learning, reading, living a normal life. By 1942, she had 309 confirmed kills, making her one of the deadliest snipers in history. But here's the insane part. 36 of those were enemy snipers eliminated in direct duels. 36 times, she was hunting an enemy sniper who was simultaneously hunting her. 2 trained killers stalking each other, knowing one mistake meant death. She won every single time. Then there were teenagers Maria Polivanova and Natalia Kovshova. They were 19 and 20 when the war started. They became an inseparable sniper pair, developing tactics where one would draw fire while the other identified and eliminated the threat. By 1942, This pair had over 300 enemy casualties between them. 300 German soldiers killed by 2 teenage girls. The combined kill total of Soviet female snipers? Over 11,000 confirmed casualties. That's 5 times their total deployment. Each female sniper, on average, killed 5 enemy soldiers. These were precision kills, officers making decisions, messengers carrying orders, artillery spotters directing fire, enemy snipers terrorizing Soviet positions. For the Germans, this was completely incomprehensible. Women weren't supposed to be on battlefields, let alone killing their elite soldiers with precision shots, and it enraged them. Here's what you need to understand about Nazi ideology. In their worldview, a woman's role was absolute. Children, kitchen, church, that's it. From childhood, German girls were taught their purpose was to bear as many children as possible for the Reich and maintain the household. They learned cooking, sewing, childcare. Women in combat? Completely unnatural. The idea of women with rifles, hunting, and killing German soldiers? This wasn't just military opposition. It was an ideological abomination. To Nazi ideology, this represented everything they believed they were fighting to destroy: the corrupt Bolshevik system that perverted natural order. German propaganda depicted Soviet female soldiers as unwomanly aberrations. They were labeled partisans and terrorists, not legitimate soldiers deserving POW protections. And this became official policy with written orders. General Günther von Kluge issued a chilling directive. All women found in Soviet Army uniform are to be shot straight away. Not taken prisoner, not interrogated. Shot immediately. Hitler went further. The Commissar order mandated immediate execution of political officers, often including female soldiers. The Barbarossa Jurisdiction Order removed accountability for crimes against Soviet prisoners. The Eastern Front was deliberately exempted from the Geneva Conventions. Hitler viewed the war in the East as a war of extermination. Female soldiers were swept up in this machinery, but snipers faced something unimaginably worse. Remember those last friend grenades from the beginning? Now you'll understand why. Female snipers faced a perfect storm. They were women under Nazi ideology, Slavs under Nazi racial theory, communists, and snipers, already the most hated soldiers. Combine these factors, and you get treatment that can barely be described. Let me tell you about Tatiana Baramzina. Before the war, she was a kindergarten teacher who loved working with children. By 1944, she was a sniper with 36 confirmed kills. She volunteered for a parachute raid behind German lines. Her unit got surrounded. She fought until her ammunition ran out. Then, she was captured. Historical records document that her execution involved prolonged torture and mutilation. The details are so disturbing, historians struggle to document them. Her death wasn't quick. It was designed to be as painful and degrading as possible. The Germans displayed her body as a warning. Now remember Maria and Natalia, those teenage snipers? In August 1942, they were wounded and surrounded by German soldiers closing in. They had seen the bodies. They knew their fate. So they looked at each other one final time, pulled the pins on their last grenades, held them to their chests, and made sure they wouldn't be taken alive. Think about that. These were teenagers. A grenade to the chest was the better option. This wasn't rare. Many Soviet female snipers carried a grenade with one specific purpose: not to throw at enemies, but for themselves if capture became inevitable. They called it their last friend. Here's what makes this tragic. These women knew. Soviet commanders explicitly warned that Germans would not take them prisoner. Capture meant torture, sexual assault, and execution. No POW camp, no survival. And knowing this, they went anyway. Think about that courage. To enter combat where defeat means guaranteed torture and death. To carry a suicide grenade daily and still choosing to fight. Post-war testimonies from the few who survived paint a consistent picture. When captured, female snipers often faced sexual assault first. Then they'd be taken away from other prisoners, sometimes interrogated, sometimes not. But the end was always the same: execution, sometimes quick, often public hangings or burning. The cruelty was deliberate, combining ideological hatred with vengeful rage. But here's the unexpected turn that the Germans never anticipated. The Germans thought they were being strategic with this brutality. They knew news would spread through Soviet forces. They wanted it to spread. They left bodies displayed. Their calculation seemed logical. If Soviet women knew what capture meant in graphic detail, they'd refuse to fight or be paralyzed by fear. It backfired spectacularly. Instead of breaking morale, it hardened resolve. When capture means something worse than death, you don't surrender. You don't retreat. You fight harder, longer, more desperately. You fight to the absolute end. The Soviet female snipers didn't break. The brutality made them more determined, more ruthless, more focused and effective. The numbers tell the story. Of 2,000 female snipers deployed, only 500 survived the war. That's a 75% casualty rate, far higher than regular infantry. Many died in combat. Many chose suicide over capture, but before they fell, they inflicted that devastating 11,000 kill count. The German terror strategy didn't break them. It forged them into something more dangerous. This pattern didn't end with World War II. In Vietnam, there was a woman known only as Apache, who became notorious for torturing captured Americans within earshot of U.S. positions. Marines could hear what was happening, but couldn't stop it. This went on until Marine sniper Carlos Hathcock tracked her down. But here's something different. In Ukraine, Russian sniper Irina Starikova was captured by Ukrainian forces. Based on historical precedent, you'd expect immediate execution. Instead, she received medical treatment. She's alive, facing investigation. By historical standards, that's unusual. Maybe it signals a shift. Maybe the rules of war are finally starting to matter. So why does this story matter? Because these women deserve to be remembered, not as propaganda symbols, but as human beings who made an impossible choice. They knew what awaited them. They carried grenades to avoid capture. They watched friends blow themselves up rather than surrender. And still they picked up their rifles. From a legal standpoint, snipers are protected by the Geneva Conventions. But battlefield reality never matched those rules on paper. For female snipers, those rules didn't exist. The psychological burden was immense. Sniping is personal. You watch your target through your scope for days. You see their face. Lyudmila Pavlichenko said she remembered every face. Many survivors were scarred for life. And for those who didn't survive, who died in combat or chose death over capture or suffered unimaginable torment, we have an obligation to tell their stories truthfully, not sensationalized, not glorified, but accurately. These women fought with extraordinary courage against an enemy that saw them as less than human. They paid a price most of us can't comprehend. There are graves scattered across Eastern Europe containing young women who should have been teachers, students, mothers. Instead, they became snipers out of desperate necessity and faced horrors we can barely describe. Their courage deserves to be remembered. The brutality they faced deserves to be documented, so we never forget what happens when the rules of war are abandoned. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button for Warfare Unclassified for more untold military history. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.